everyone has that dream of being able to leave Vietnam to be able to come to the US. Is a it. I mean, I see back then the US was the land of opportunity, the land of where you can make your dream come true. You know, you can be poor and still be successful, right? It's a lot easier, I feel, than in Vietnam or in other country. And so I was very clear and I understood the opportunity that I had and the chance to be here in this country. And so the idea of like leaving the US and going back to Vietnam was never crossed my mind. Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Thuy, Trần Ngọc Thúy. Right? So I have been in the US for about 3 decades now. So I moved to the US when I was very young, about 12 years old. And I spent my life most of my life here, grow up here. It has been an amazing experience. Married with 3 kids. So very happy life.
Can you share about? I think this is your memories a long time ago. I'm not sure if you remember or not, but how did you move to the United States?
Yeah, so I mean, I was very young, right? I was pretty much a teenager when we moved. And so it was a very exciting time when you're 12 and you get to go live in the US. That's like the dream, right? It was hard because a very much a changing time in any person's life. When you go into a new country, it is a new language. Where I live, there are quite a bit of Vietnamese people, but you know, we live in the US, so we speak English, we go to school, we speak English, and you know, it's part of learning and integrate into the American life. And it took time. It took time to learn the language. It took time to assimilate into the culture, the belief system, and all that. But you know, it's just like anything. When you're starting new, it's always difficult. But over the years, right? I mean, once I got my English down, it's not as hard. And and on top of, I'm a very hard worker, right? I will spend my time learning. I will spend my time very diligent in schools and things like that. Because, you know, not everyone get a chance to come here to the US to have the dream life. And so, I mean, my parents worked very hard to give me this opportunity and the sacrifices that they made so that I can have the opportunity. So of course, you know, I hustle hard for everything that we have today. And it's just part of the journey. It's just spending the time and be diligent. Yeah.
So, what do you remember about your first year in the United States? Any challenges
Oh,
or hard time that you?
yeah, the first year is definitely the hardest because I couldn't really speak English very well. Right? So I couldn't speak it very well and I didn't understand it very well either. And so sometime when the teacher, or actually a lot of time when the teacher talked to me, I didn't quite understand. And in here in school, right, they usually, whenever a new kids arrive, they usually pair another student with the new kids and who can speak the same language. And so I was paired with another girl, and she was born here. So she knows some Vietnamese, but her Vietnamese was not that great. But she did her best to help me. I think, I was like a little bird. But once you come here, it's a little harder. Communication become a challenge. So then I become very quiet because I was like, well, I don't know how to express or like I don't have the word to to communicate what I'm trying to say. And you know, I was trying very hard just to understand what was going on around, whether it's in school or being outside. And I think that was the hardest part is that it definitely did change. I would say it changed my personality a little bit because I think I went from being social to more of an introvert because I'm like, well, and I think it's just because of the environment that made me that way. You know, once I have the English down, like now today, right? I'm very social, right? I'll be out, I'll make friends, I'll do all that stuff. So it's no longer.
How long you took to speak English smooth and can understand people around you easier?
I think it's about a year. It didn't take me that long because when I come, I think what a lot of people tend to do when they do migrate here is that they tend to stay within their community, right? So, I mean, we do have a big Vietnamese community. So, if you choose to, you can really be around just Vietnamese. Or for the Chinese people, we have Chinatown in San Francisco. You can live in Chinatown and basically just pretty much speak Chinese all the time. But for me, we didn't live immediate inside the Vietnamese community. So, I was very much surrounded by other people of different races and different cultures, and it was always English. So I go to school, I speak English. I come home, I watch TV in English. And actually, watching a lot of the TV, a lot of the TV show back then in English, it really helped me learn the language because I see how people talk, how you I mean, the day-to-day life talking is different than writing, right? Or reading. And so writing and reading you can definitely learn in school. And even before I came to the US, my mom was already preparing me. I was already learning the English language. So yes, I can read it and my was pretty good, but speaking it is where it's harder. I mean, in the first year, my brain was still thinking in Vietnamese and try to translate it into English. But after about a year, right, I got the gist of it, right? The basics are there. And the second and the third, eventually, now I don't really think in Vietnamese, right? I think naturally in the English language. It has actually become the opposite. Like my brain has, if I want to speak Vietnamese, it has to flip. It has to be like, okay, we need to change mode.
You moved to United States when you was very young. So what scared you the most about starting over in new country, or you just excited?
Oh, I mean, like when I come here, I was super excited. But once you're here, right, when I was here, and then reality hit, and I'm like, this is really hard. And of course, I miss my friends and I miss, the life in Vietnam because life in Vietnam, right? You wake up, your friends are all around you. You walk to school with everybody, and it's very much very close community, and everybody knows everybody. Whereas the U.S. is different, right? Everyone is in their own home. You all drive. Nobody really walk to school here, and schools are far away. It only the elementaries are more or less walkable. Once you get to middle school and high school, it's really not walkable anymore, and to me, it's a little bit dangerous because there are cars everywhere. You don't really know your neighbor very well because everybody's working, everybody's in school, and so I think that is the big difference. Because then I only have my parents, and then I only have like one, two friends that who are also Vietnamese and happen to be in the same school. So I was like, I know how to talk to them and we can talk well together. And I was lucky. One of the girls that I met in school was Vietnamese, and she happened to live like inside the same neighborhood as me. And so we were very close. And I think that she helped me a lot in terms of school, in terms of homework and a lot of things. And it helped because you do need to have a good support system whenever you're in a new place.
How did it feel not fully understand the language around you? Like, have any situation make you feel shame or anything? Because I want to share my situation when I at airport in Singapore. I almost lost in Singapore because it's the first time and I go alone and I just want to see how it's different from Vietnam and I go around and each time and I not check in and then
Uh,
the person asked me by English I want to carry by my bang or a target. So I listen, but I'm not focused what she's saying because time's up. Then I will feel very embarrassing at that moment. So how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it could be really embarrassing because sometimes people talk and I'm like, I'm staring blank. I don't know what they're talking about. So, but I mean, I was also younger, and so adult all around me was very good about helping me, right? So even if they, um, they can tell, when I'm not quite understand, and so they'll try to use hang language, I'll try to use signal to try different things. And so it as challenging as it was, I don't think it was too bad, right? I mean, I'm sure back then when you're in that moment it's horrible. But now that I passed it and I think back, it's really not all as bad as I think it was. Yeah.
Did you ever feel behind compared to American kids your age?
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel like I always had to study so hard. Because like especially when it come to like reading or like English class or social study or like history, anything that require English, it was hard. I mean, math was like easy because I feel like Vietnam has math is way advanced. So that was good there. I But like anything that required writing, reading, it was really tough because there's a lot of words that I didn't understand. And I was a lot slower than all the other kids, and that was, like, the biggest challenge is that whole communication, writing, English, grammar, and writing in itself, I mean, even writing in Vietnamese back then was hard for me. Now I have to write in a different language, so that was even harder. But, you do the best you can, and then you survive.
So for the after the first year and when you adapted and when you can speak English smoother and understand people more, then was that the time you want to give up and go back to Vietnam and ever or I don't want or I want to stay here and of course I have to move forward.
Well, no, because I understood. I think like nowadays it may potentially easier for people with money to do a tourist visa, right, for you to travel across different countries. But when the time that I was immigrating, right, to be able to move to US is a huge deal. And I think even now and for us, we were not like a rich family with money and things like that. So we were poor like everybody else back there. And so I mean like everyone has that dream of being able to leave Vietnam to be able to come to the US is a it I mean I see back then the US was the land of opportunity, the land of where you can make your dream come true. You can be poor and still be successful, right? It's a lot easier, I feel, than in Vietnam or in other country. And so I was very clear and I understood the opportunity that I had and the chance to be here in this country. And so the idea of like leaving the US and going back to Vietnam was never crossed my mind. And life in Vietnam's a lot harder. I mean, as hard as it is to move to a new country and you have to make new friends and you have language barrier, the living condition here is way more amazing, right? Ever in Vietnam, I had to walk everywhere. Here, you get in a car and you drive. How awesome is that? Right? And hot in Vietnam here, like everything is AC, everything is air conditioning. You go out, and California weather is always, very beautiful. And so life, and when it comes to like necessity, food, shelter, it's a much higher standard of living. And so it's never really crossed my mind that I would want to go back home to Vietnam. And I do know, a lot of older Vietnamese, right? Our parents or grandparents. I do know people who come here and then they do chain migration and then bring their parents over. Typically, usually the parents tend to not like living here because life is so different. It's not like you can just walk out the front door and go, hang out with your neighbor next door because everybody work. If you want to go to the store, you typically will need a car to drive or you need to take the bus. It's really not walking distance in general. Whereas in Vietnam, you just like walk down the street and there's the market. Walk down the street and there's the cafe, right? Walk down the street, you can have breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. So it's very different. And so I think for the senior or the older people, it's very much a shock, a change in the way of living that is very difficult and it's not fun for them. Whereas for me, I was young, I was in a growing phase, right? I was going to school where I was meeting friends, I was making new friends. So I get to meet people. I'm not at home all the time. And there's always things to be doing, right? Whether you're studying or after school activity, things like that. So I was always busy. And so that thought never really crossed my mind because I was focused on like, I gotta study, I gotta get my grade up, I gotta get into college, I gotta find a job. I was future pacing hard. So
Nowadays, I heard a lot of people say that if you have a lot of money, living in Vietnam
yeah.
will so much happier. So, what do you think about that?
I would say, that yes and no, because you got to look at two sides, right? It is great because the money you bring from the US back to Vietnam, you can live like a king, right? The money here, especially where I am in the Bay Area, it doesn't go far because the cost of living here is very high. Housing, food, all that is very expensive. But when you take it home to Vietnam, you can live in like mansion, have like housekeeper, gardener, driver, all of that. You're living like the amazing life. And I think it does make sense, let's say for someone who are in their golden year, right? If they're in their 50s, 60s, or like they are retiring, yes, I think it personally it's great. Go to Vietnam, live there for like 6 months, come back here 6 months. Because if they have families or kids here, they're gonna have grandchildren and you can't just be in Vietnam and not be away from your grandkid for like a long time either, right? There are relationships and things like that. So a lot of people would do that. But the difference too is that um, as you age, right, when you get into your 80s and 90s, when your health becomes a priority or when you are having your health is deteriorating, you need to be here in the US because healthcare here is much better, right? You can be if you're sick, you can go to the emergency and they will treat you, right? In Vietnam, right? If you're sick, you go to the hospital, you gotta pay first before you get treatment. So it's a very different system. And so here, the doctor care for you on a much more regular basis. Or you go see, like my grandma in her 90, she has regular checkup. To see her regular doctor every 3 months. She go, get her blood test done. So it's very well cared for. And so I think that's also the reason why people here live a lot longer and because of that quality of care. And so it's gonna be depending on what season in life a person is in. So Vietnam can be fun, but for a period, not forever.
So, besides that, yeah, nowadays a lot of people want to move to new country to
Mhm,
work hard and to send money back Vietnam. Even they go to Japan,
mhm.
Korea, Hong Kong, or
Mhm.
Europe, or American or Canada. So I think it depends on the person. What is the goal? What culture shock hits you the hardest?
Oh, you know what the funniest thing I remember when I was younger is that like I think people here are very friendly. Whereas I think in Vietnam, it's not that we're not friendly, but we're very much, there is the adult and there's the little kid, and you have to be very respectful. You gotta be respectful to your elder. So it's not as, personal. And I think like, in Vietnam, we don't really say I love you to each other, right? Or you don't hug. There is no hugging. Hugging are for children, right? I mean, you hug little kids but that's about it because once a little bigger, there's no more. But in here, the US, like people hug people all the time. Hi, come hug, right? I mean, it just very friendly, and that was like the weirdest part for me because like I will have teachers or like all these people would like they're super friendly and they'll say hi and they'll come hug me and I'm like, oh, you just come into my face. And so that was, like, very strange because we're just so used to be like, the most is your parent might hug you, that's about it, or maybe your aunt, like, your close aunt, and even then, it's not gonna be that often. So I think that was the weirdest thing when I first come, but now I love it. Like, now I have become a hugger. Like, people I don't know, the other day I just met completely this new lady, and through a woman group. And, they will all, like, try to check it out. I'm like, "Come here. Come over here." So I think that was, like, one of the back then, it was the most challenging thing, but now, I took it in and I really like it because I also feel like we're all just human being, right? Just give love, give positivity, and, that's one of the things I now love the most about this culture.
I have to share with you about. I think it depends on the family. Like when the parent teach kids and they never say "I love you" or "I miss you" or hugging because in my family, my parents always strict.
Yeah,
Like you have to do this way, and they never say the words sweet word
yeah.
to me, to my brother and my sister. But when I grow up, I think I almost 28, almost 28, and then have I have opportunity to join some program when I save my money and I try there and people because I have tests, so I have adapted. It's super
Mhm.
high. I can adapt it in the environment not good. In the environment good, I adapted too fast. Anything I can adapt it. When I am there, people say I love you, and for no reason they come to hug me, and even male or female, they just come and hug and crying and say I love you. I can feel the essence. That's a new word I learned from the program. So when I come back my house, my home, and I meet my parents, the first word I speak I love you. But in my family, in many years, parents and kids never say that, and it feel really weird. Why you say that? But when with the strange
Mhm.
person said I love you, it's so easy. Sometimes I didn't understand why, but
Mhm.
I think it depends on the family and the grandparents, the parent, how the guide the kids or children to
Yeah.
treat others. So I think in the in the future, my own family will be like when you look outside from outside to me. So I
Mhm.
very cool person. Like now I smile more, laugh more. But when few years ago when you look at me I'm super cool person. I never slap with you
Mhm.
smart and I'm look like exactly my father strict person. You have to do this way. So I change a lot. Yeah, so
Mhm.
when I have opportunity to learn English, I can listen very good and understand the people talk to me very good. But when I speak, it really hard for me more than listen. So yeah, I mean, English is the tool help me a lot to open my mind, open my eyes to see the big world. When I see the big world out there, and I really don't have anyone to share in people around me because they don't see what I see. So I choose myself to silent. I don't care. I just talk to myself. I don't care what you're thinking, but I think you don't see what I see. So I don't like talk to you about that problem and I go away. Uh, so yeah.
Yeah, and, I'm really glad you had that experience because, right, I think our culture is very much internal. right? We're not very expressive because that's how things were, right? The way that our culture, our parents or grandparents express love is through action, not through word, not through hugs or things like that, right? Where they care for you in a sense where they, cook for you, they try to save certain food for you, or they'll do things for you in a very quiet way because it's not loud, it's not like boisterous and be like, I love you all the times, or like come here and hug and things like that. It's very different in that sense. And because like everybody in our cultures are like that, right? They were taught to be strict with our children because we want them to be successful and all this. And so, they got to study, you got to be struck, you got to give them structure. And, you don't want to tell them you love them too much and make them soft and things like that. It just, the culture and one, right, our grandparents was that way to our parents, and it's the next generation. It just would you just learn from the previous one. But because you got a chance to be exposed to a different culture, to a different country, and you get to see how love is so freely expressed, and it feels really good, right, when somebody that just a friend tell you they love you. And it really, they do love you. You can feel it. You can feel the care that they have. Same way, as like you before, I felt like, oh, they're a different kind of love, right? The way your parents love you, the way you love your boyfriend, your partner, your kid. I would be like, that's different, a different kind of love. But now, now that I'm more mature and I've grown, love is love, right? The way you send out positive energy, the way you give anyone love is just love. There is no boundary for it. And the more we are able to express it, to show other people that we care for them, it make us feel good that we're able to show it. And the person who receive it also feel love. And I think it does make the world a better place if we just could share all that and be more expressive. But our culture is not an expressive culture. Our culture is more keep it inside.
One day when I speak too sweet to my parents, like too short to my parents, like what's the problem with you? So
Yeah, yeah.
they they just block it. I think it need practice.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's just awkward in the beginning because it's not something you do normally. But if they're open to it, they knew that it wouldn't be so difficult. I mean, like I hug my mom all the time. But even then, like I do tell her I love her here and there. But because I don't know, I think she doesn't feel comfortable with me saying it too much. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
What we just talked about, so I want to ask you, how does the American culture change your mindset growing up?
The American culture is very empowering, right? It has this belief that you can do anything and everything. It doesn't have boundary. It doesn't tell you, oh, you're poor, so you can't be this, or you're from, you got one leg, you can't run, and things like that, right? And second, like it's very much focused on creativity. It let children be creative. I think that's one of the things that for our Vietnamese culture, we tend to, or back from my memory when I was in Vietnam, I feel that we don't really let children express themselves too much, right? Don't run, don't talk too loud, don't yell, be respectful to your elder, you have to listen to us, like, and so you don't really let children be as expressive. Whereas here, children to allow, they're not afraid of anything there. I mean, of course, depend on how the parents set a boundary too, right? Like my kids, they're very expressive, like I mean, I tell my daughter, my kids that I love them all the time. And sometimes they'll just be like, I love you. I'm like, oh, love you back. So they're very easily in sharing how they feel, and they're not really afraid to do things. And I think that's the important thing because what I want to teach them is that it's better to just try, right? Try even if you fail, then you at least have a lesson versus being afraid that, oh, I'm not supposed to do that, or this is not, you know, something I should even try. Then you already lost, or you don't even give yourself a chance. And I think that's where it's very different because if you look at even president, right? Some of the U.S. president came from nothing, came from places that are like backward country, town, and they don't have to be spectacular. And they don't have to be an Ivy League school. It's just, if they have the ambition and if they have the the goal and the drive to make a difference in people's life and to have these like huge enormous goal. I mean, even I think once it's the seventh and landing in the moon, but the US are like that. The mentality is that reach for the star always, always nothing is truly impossible. And I feel that is what makes the US great, right? Where I think in Asian culture, and I think we are changing too, but more culture tend to be realistic, right? Pick a job,
Mm.
go study, be successful, pick a job that's going to be safe, right? Be a doctor, be an engineer. And I think in almost every developing country, whether you're like in Africa or in the Middle East, and a lot of culture I noticed, right? Doctor, engineer, lawyer. Those are like the three approved career because it's very safe, right? You know that if you could do this, you get there, you be successful. But whereas
Mm.
I think American culture, they let their children choose, be like, do what you're passionate about, do what you love, and not they don't really put their children into any sort of box. And I think that's what I love about the American culture, right? And they do teach you a lot of things that are different, right? They teach you to speak your mind, have an opinion, go vote, right? Because your voice matters. So a lot of that freedom don't get to have in other countries.
I love this
So
question. How does you balance respecting your parents' mindset while adapting?
I think I was always like, oh, girl, I was very much a friend of my parents. Totally Vietnamese, right? I mean, whatever they want, I do. I was a very good girl. I was not the rebellious kind where they're like, where they want me to do something and I tell them no, no. Uh, I don't think I was brave enough to really say anything back. I mean, and anything that I do, I would just sneak out. I would just be like trying to do it behind their back because I was too afraid. Yeah, I'm not that brave back then. Yeah, so I don't have an answer for you on that.
I was a good girl also. So
Mm,
nowadays, parents always miss my own me. But when I change,
mhm,
I'm not listen anymore. I have my own experience and own opinions. So I get angry. My mom asked me why I changed so much, and she miss the old daughter. I no, I'm happy with me today because I change a lot and a lot of things out there. You don't know what is amazing what I see. So
mm,
now I cannot go back anymore because the mindset I built and I learned in just few years and I changed so much on her whole different person and people say before they say me good
mhm.
girl, now they say me bad girl. That you know how I feel.
Naughty. Yes, by Vietnamese standard, you're a naughty girl. You're not listening to your parents. But I'm glad because you are actually really brave. And what I've seen, you've done. You travel into a different country, but all by yourself. You go see the world. You study, you do all these things that a typical Vietnamese woman in Vietnam don't usually do, right? So you gave yourself the opportunity to see the world. So to see different places, to see how other women are treated in other places, on how things are different than out. And I think that's when you go see the world, it open doors in your mind, and once a door is open, you cannot close it. And you know it too, right? That's why you change. And being the you now, you're more expressive. You fight for your opinion. You fight to be seen, right? Because as much as our parents love us and they meant well, they're not us, right? They not supposed to live our life for us, right? We should be living our life. Good for you to fight for what you believe in, to have your own opinion and all those things, right? It makes you happier. If you don't, right, and all you do is just follow what they say, then you're living their life. You don't get to live your life.
Yeah, but I have to say it's really really difficult. many times. Oh my God, why I have to do this alone myself? And
mm,
around me, no one understand what I'm seeing, and
mm.
they call me crazy, and
Yeah,
it's really loneliness. When I see a lot of my friends, they just go by and they getting married, and I before when I was young, when I was 2025, I think I were getting married and have 3 kids. And now when I um, learn more, then I see also fly and but opportunity also that oh my God, I have to get out of this before I have children.
yeah,
And it maybe it help my future children a little bit, or I have to decide if I choose to have children or not, or if I have children, how to raise them, not to feed them, because I see a lot of parents, they just give birth children and they feed the food. And I mean, here you have to be here to guide your children to raise and to help them to build the mindset and everything in life, and not just give food. I'm not happy because you become the parent just give the kids food. No. So
yeah.
when I learned, I decided if before I decided to have pick it now. I think almost one maybe if my partner have high responsibility with me, because I have to give my children and my own family the quality life. So that I'm not settled.
Yeah, and I don't settle because I think like right where you are, there's not that many people who do what you do, right? Because they don't see what you already seen, so they're not going to understand why you think the way you think, why you do what you do. And it's okay if they don't understand because they don't live your life. You live your life. And what's the point of getting married if you're not having the right partner? Because the the husband or wife, whoever that going to be your partner, when we get married, we want it to be for the rest of our life, right? We don't get married planning on getting divorced later, right? We want to have a good partner who is supportive, loving, all that. And especially when you bring children into the world too. And some parents, like you said, right, they provide food, provide shelter. Well, they parent the way they were taught to parent, right? We model after our parents and until we learn better. And so, I mean, like, I don't find fault in that, but because everyone is different in their parenting style, and there is really no right way or wrong way, I feel. But it just, what you want for your kids, what you like you said, like be their guide. We're here and before I was very much more stricter with my children where I'm like, I want you to do this. Right. But as I grow and as I mature, I realize they came into the world through me. So I they chose me to be their parents. And so I have this responsibility to help them, to guide them, teach them the tool necessary for them to be successful in whatever it is that they want to do once they are an adult and independent. But until then, they're not here to live my dream. I'm here to live my dream. And so I think I separate those two. Whereas before, when I first became a parent, right, my children were the center of my universe. And so sometimes a lot of parents, we don't realize it, but then we end up putting our dream into children or putting the things that we want for ourselves into our children. And if that's what the kids want, great. But if it's not what the kids want, then it's really unfair to put that on them. And also it's hard to tell if that is what the kids want, because a lot of times children want to please us. Just like when I was growing up, right? I want to please my parents. Like, what do they want? They want, good grade. Okay, I will work hard to do good grade. You want me to go be a doctor? Okay, I'll try my best to job. Like, this is not for me. I'll do something else. But it's hard for children to say no to parents if they are a little bit of a people pleaser because their survival depend on being good children too. And so there is a certain piece of psychology. So unless they were taught to be free to be expressive, they may not express what they truly want.
I say in Vietnam, many family the children have responsibility for their emotion. They not actually speaking out the word, but the action and the way they speak. Like you have to do this and I'm happy. You have to do that and I'm happy. You have to marry at this age and I'm happy. You have to have two, three kids and I'm happy. That I said, what the hell are you talking about? Because you are put too heavy responsibility on the children, so no, it's not what they want. So
Well, I think because a lot of time, right, our parents think any parent, because I know that I'm a parent, right? We all want our kids to be happy and to be successful. Even the word successful has different definition. And in general, right, we want our kid to do well, right, to be able to take care of themselves. And I mean, like, we will be so proud if they're like top of their class, if they become, successful in a money making way, right? Because that's the way that society measure success. And then on top of that, right, we also want the kid to marry well, marry somebody who's going to be a good partner, then have two kids, three kids, however many kids, because that's kind of like the earmark, right, of different phases in life. And being married at a certain age or by a certain age or having kid at a certain age, you are following society expectation. And when you follow society expectation, you're safe. Right. And I think that's what older generation wants for us is to be safe and to be happy because they think that's what is for happiness. But in
mm,
reality, right, what is happening, especially I think for everybody as roof over our head, we have money, we have food, we don't have to go and starving, then you can start thinking about, well, what is it that make you happy on the inside? You're not constantly worried about financial anymore. Then that's when you can free up space to feel, wow, what is my passion for life? What is it that I'm here on earth to do? Right. And so those kind of questions comes up. And I think that's where then I feel like my generation especially, because we were in that phase where we are doing what our parent taught us to do. And now I feel like a lot of people of my generation are questioning like, well, what is the purpose of life? What am I here for? Like if, even like I've met people who are very incredibly successful, make lots of money and like completely unhappy. Money doesn't always buy happiness, and that's really is the truth. It can buy some comfort, but it does not buy happiness. Yeah.
if compared with there, here the neighborhood when mother, grandmother sit together and they talk about when my children get the good husband, they more
Mhm.
than your daughter, they ha because I'm get better.
Yeah.
then they then they compare my daughter or my son get this job make a lot of money than yours, then they get haha and
Mhm.
like compare to each other to
Mhm.
different people and they get one side they get haha, one side they get sad. I mean day by day they do that. I why you have to do so? You see any situation around you there or have?
I mean, that's pretty typical, and I think it's human nature, and especially in our culture, right? My daughter is better than yours. My son has had a better job than yours, or my children, da, da, da. My grandkid is so smart, like it's a pride, right? Because I think it's just human nature that when you have something good going on, you want to show it off because like it's a source of pride for them. And I mean, the same thing happened here too. It's not that people here are like all that deep. I mean, there are people who truly understand what true happiness means and what true success is beyond just the measure of money. But in a lot of community, I mean, it is the people from Asia, right? Whether it's from India or from Vietnam who come here, so they carry the same mentality over here, where they're like, my child is in so and so school. My child just got into Harvard. My child is at Stanford. My child is like, number one valedictorian kind of thing. So I mean, it's a source of pride. They will always. I mean, that parent generation we usually compare. And for me, right? I mean, for a while when my kids were little, I was in all these mom groups, right? We would get when they get together, and they were like, oh yeah, my child was able to suck on a straw already, or they already sit up, and then da, da, da. I'm like, oh my God, like who cares? Like, I will do that is part of developing. I mean, like they're going to walk eventually, they're going to talk eventually, sooner or later. If your child does it sooner than my child, what is the big deal? And so for me, like I didn't click with those kind of groups. And so I kind of not join anymore because it doesn't feel good. Like for me, what make me feel good is being around other people who are supportive, who goes like, if I goes, oh, my kid is struggling with this, and be like, oh, have you tried this? Or like maybe even that. Or if I say, oh yeah, I was, if you do share something good, they're happy for you. They're like, good for you. You did the thing that you want to do, or like, I'm so happy. There's no like, oh God, they're better than me. I'm jealous. Like it's not that kind of vibe that I want. And I feel like the everyone's are different, and so you just have to find the community and the tribe that work for you, that fit your energy.
What do you think about the mindset matters than talent?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, like, we might be living in the same planet, but everybody has different situations. And really, what we see, what we want, what we believe in, it's like it's all different. Who you surround yourself with is really important. And of course, mindset is key, right? What you want for your life, right? Because some people, they learn helplessness, they go into victim mode, right? I mean, there's this thing where you say that life is happening for you, right? Or life can happen to you, right? When life is happening to you, you're in victim mode. You're like, oh, there's nothing I can do about it, right? But if you believe that life is happening for you, then you know that this thing that come, whether it's good or bad, or things that you like or don't like, it is happening for your benefit, and it could be a lesson or it could be a gift, right? Either way, it's awesome. And so having that belief, right, what always we call it mindset, is going to make your life happier, brighter, or it can make your life be like miserable and you can be depressed and be like, oh, nothing good ever happened. Everybody hates me. I hate everybody. Like that's, I don't know. That is not the environment I would want to be in.
When you in the environment
Mhm.
positive, I think we can feel it. Like
Mhm.
when you in a group of people negative, we
Yeah.
I mean it's essence energy. Like when I in the group of people say the negative thing and gossip about people, I can feel it right away, and I'm not in this. I will walk away right away. I'm not in. But when you with the people, just think positive. You just I just why you can think that's positive? I never think like that. But when you surround with those people, then you become the person positive. You have to look at negative and no, this group of people is not for me and leave them alone.
Yeah, because I mean, they do have to be there because then it show you the difference between that positive and negative energies and different ways of thinking. But you don't, I mean, like, and you make your choice if you want to be around it or not, right? Because that positive energy is very uplifting, right? It makes you feel better. And that
Yeah.
negative energy, and sometimes things will happen where it will bring you down. And I think that's okay because life is like up and flow, right? Sometimes you're going to be super happy and you're going to be high as a kite. And then sometimes things will happen where it will bring your spirit down. And that's okay because being able to sit in that uncomfortableness will show you and it will actually teach you to appreciate when you are in the higher energy level. And when you are in the higher energy and positive energy level, then you can appreciate where you're at because you know that life will probably throw you something that can bring you down, and that's okay. That's just part of life.
So what the mindset shift changed your life the most?
I think the one that changed my life the most, that really started everything, is thinking big. Because before, my parent was, or just my dad anyway, is we want me to have a good, happy life, right? So for me, like, what is a good, happy life, right? Oh, you marry somebody who's a good husband, you have kids, and then you're just happy in your little family. And once I got into real estate and I learned more about self-development and learning about mindset and all this stuff, one of the this is a amazing realtor. His name was Rick Jiha. I remember I was taking a workshop and he was teaching about thinking big, thinking beyond what you think is possible. And that's when I was like, okay, I am not looking high enough. Right? Because like if your eye level is always here, you can't see the sky, right? You gotta look up to see all the possible. And I think that's really what changed everything, where I was like, you know what? Yes, I can have that. I can have that dream house. I can have the amazing life. I can have an early retirement. I can have it all. So that's kind of where, but even then, right, when I first learned of it, it takes time to even be able to believe it and just make that a goal because sometimes it's kind of like I remember back then I'm like that just seems so big, it seems so impossible, right? Like a little me, how am I gonna do all that? But eventually you're kind of like, why not me, right? It's kind of like I work hard, I could do it. It's just one little step at a time, because I think people oftentimes, and I think this is something that even the Microsoft founder Bill Gates, he said, right? A lot of people overestimate what you can do in 1 year and underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And I think that's the thing, because when I look at my life and I look at 10 years ago where I am at, it has been an absolutely an amazing journey. Everything where I am, I could even have imagined it, or I wouldn't even dare to ask back then. But, along the way, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna want that, 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 and that. So, dear God, can you make sure help me out? Yeah, so that's one of the biggest thing is that thinking big.
When you withdraw people, you can feel it. You make me remember to my old mentor. He's passed away when I shared with you before.
Yeah,
Like the first time I worked with him, he top CEO, top country in the world. And when I taste one, work with him, I cannot work with the like my I have my standard, Since
yeah,
I work with it, I have my standard. Even you pay me the price high, but when the energy is not matching, I cannot work with you anymore. But when I with my people, like oh my God, you say nothing, I I can do it.
yeah.
Like the energy is is I cannot say it in the word, but I can feel
Mhm.
it. I can do it. It's matching. Tastes good one. You never go back the bad one.
Because now you know what it feel like to be around people who uplift you. So when you're around people who's gonna take you down, or the people who live more fear based, where they're afraid, oh, you're gonna surpass them, or they're afraid of this and that, right? It's not a good environment to be in anyway, because then everybody is just kind of fighting for themselves. And if you think about it, when you're in an environment where others uplift you, it's a team effort. Everybody help each other out, everyone will get further than being in a fear base where you're just trying to push people down just so you can get further, because you're not going to get very far in that.
Environment is very important.
Absolutely is, because one of the things that I also learned, like the real estate have taught me so much, is that right, you are the average of the five people that you hang out with the most, right? Because you are learning from those people, right? Because when you see that they are what they're doing, you're gonna, if they're doing things that are positive and amazing, you're gonna want to do similar things too. It might not be the exact same thing, right? Whatever that your passion is, but when you can see somebody chasing their passion, it's almost give you permission to also chase yours, right? But if you're around people who like, oh, I can't do that, I'm busy, or like, no, that's not for me, right? It's almost make you, it doesn't encourage you to push and to go do the things that you need to do. So being around the right environment and being able to take a new idea that's going to work for you and actually take you further, it's so.
So, what do you think about the person that now they in the environment and they know that the environment not suitable for them? How to how to move themselves out of that?
Oh, I feel, you know what? If you know you're not in the right environment, then it can be very hard. After that, I met someone the other day and we were talking. And this person was like recently divorced, and we were talking about that whole situation. And the person said that like, yeah, they know they have feeling that I was in the right place for them to be, but it took them quite a few years to be able to move themselves out of that toxic environment. And it's not easy because there are situations when you can't just cut off like the people around you, right? I mean, maybe if it's your parent, your partner, your sibling, I mean, they are so intertwined with you, or even maybe your boss, right? It's hard because let's say in a work environment that doesn't work and it's not good for you, it takes time for you to find a new job. You can't just be like, all right, I quit, leaving, bye bye, cutting you out. Um, I mean, if you have money and things like that, then yeah, sure. But if you have bill to pay and mortgage and car, you've gotta it take time. But I think it's a matter of recognizing that awareness is number one, that you are in the environment that is not good for you or it's not supportive for your growth. And then, take things one step at a time. So to move away. There are times when I know certain relationship I have in the past or friendship, I feel it was not the greatest, but I was in that friendship because it gave me a sense of importance. And I was a little bit at that time, I was addicted to that feeling, and even though I feel like, "You know what? This is not the best relationship," but it's not the worst relationship, I think those are the hardest to just cut. But, eventually you kinda recognize what is the best for you, and one step at a time, because it it's not easy to just be like, "Cut it off." Sometimes you just gotta take a little baby step, take another baby step, and sometimes you actually have to take 2 steps back. And then you just gotta do it again and keep going. And then eventually, as long as you keep your eyes on the goal of being in a better environment, your brain will seek it out. It will help you seek out the right environment for you to be in.